So let me be real with you. If you're the kind of person who's constantly waiting to feel ready, then you're likely already behind. Because what you actually want, the growth, the clarity, the mindset shift, whatever it may be, it's not behind more information. It's not behind more motivation. It's on the other side of your fears. Ryan Holiday, the famous Stoic author, summed it up better than I ever could. The obstacle is the way. And the more obstacles I've overcome in my life, the more truth I've seen in that one line. Because the path of personal development is never about certainty. It's about learning to be comfortable with taking your best guess based on the information that you've got to hand, and understanding that no successful or truly fulfilled person got anywhere in life without taking risks and confronting their fears. So in this episode, my job is simple: to show you the real potential that lies on the other side of your fears, and to show you exactly how I broke through mine. Welcome to Built Different, the podcast where we break down strategy and mindset for entrepreneurs. Everyone talks about systems and frameworks, but without the right mindset, you'll never apply them. Because the most successful people all say the one same thing. 95% of success is a mental game, and strategy is just a fancy word for prioritization. As a business owner, that means putting your time and energy where it matters the most. But when you combine self-belief, clear strategy and proven frameworks, that's when you can build something with infinite leverage. And each week I'll help you do exactly that, one mindset shift and one real strategy at a time. I'm Joe Cross, founder of Excel Coaching and the Coach Creator, and this is Built Different. Section 1, the 3 fears that held me back. So I'm not telling this story to talk about me, but I want to give you some context, because the fears that held me back are the exact same ones I see holding others back, both in business and in life. And today, I want to tell you the things I've never spoken openly about, because I know it'll help someone listening to take that next step too. A few years ago, fear was running my life, and to be fair, I didn't even see it at the time. And that's the worst part about fear. It's often disguised as comfort. That's because our brains will do anything to just default to what's familiar, because it mistakes familiarity for safety. And as evolutionary creatures that we are, we often default to autopilot. So in my case, it wasn't fear of failure, it wasn't fear of hard work, it was way deeper than that. And if I was to break it down into 3 areas, this would be it. First off, I was afraid to do anything without external validation. My decisions were never based purely on what I wanted, but on what I thought others expected of me. I spoke about this in a previous episode after a breakthrough in meditation, where it actually all stems all the way back to childhood. And that fear held me back in business more than I can ever say. I was scared to show the real me online, just scared to speak honestly. And this is why you've probably seen such a massive shift in my content these days, because I'm just unapologetically myself. And I know people say this all the time, but I've just got to a point in my life where I genuinely do not care what other people think of me. Secondly, I was afraid to invest in myself because I always thought I would lose it all. And that fear, it came from a pretty tough place after losing my job during COVID. I was genuinely down to my last few £100s. Poverty times when my employer went into administration. I got a grand total of £2,000 payout that I had to live on for almost 6 months, and I couldn't find another job due to the pandemic. I was living off savings for the first time in my life, so it created this awful relationship with money, which I never previously had. And coming from full-time employment, I had no idea that one of the biggest prerequisites of being a successful business owner or entrepreneur was being able to bet on yourself, and that includes investing into yourself financially. And finally, maybe the hardest one of all, I was afraid of leaving behind the identity I had built for years and years. Bodybuilding, my reputation, my following, my status, and my shiny posing trunks. But all joking aside, I questioned, who even am I without all of this? It's generally all I knew. What if no one cared what I was doing anymore? What if my clients didn't want me to coach them because I was no longer competing? It sounds ridiculous looking back, but back then it genuinely felt very real. Those were the 3 fears that really did keep me stuck, and if I hadn't broke through them, there would be no Built Different, and I wouldn't be talking to you right now. There'd be no Coach Creator, because honestly, I wouldn't have had the courage to do any of what I've done in the last 12 months. To put it in perspective, who was I to educate other coaches? What qualifications did I have? Who was I to give mindset advice on YouTube? What if it didn't work out? Business-wise, financially, I had to put thousands into building the Coach Creator. I was nearly £15,000 in the red before I sold a single course. and built different. It costs me hundreds to produce each episode, and I don't make a penny in return. None of that includes my time either. But here's the best part of all this. It's not that I don't have those fears anymore, because I really do. It's just that I now understand that if I lean into them, my greatest achievements are usually waiting on the other side for me. And I'm already seeing that. Like last week, we passed our first 50 course sales in 8 weeks. The reviews and feedback have been incredible, and I'm beyond grateful. My YouTube subscribers hit 140. To some people, those numbers might not mean much, but for 4 weeks of work, and to me, that means everything. They're the tiny reinforcements I need just to keep going, just to put one foot in front of the other. But anyway, enough about me. Let's get into the quotes. Section 2. The only way to overcome fear is through voluntary suffering. David Goggins. Maybe you're hearing all of this and still thinking, Joe, I'm still scared. I don't feel ready. Well, read that quote again. The only way to overcome fear is through voluntary suffering. Because Goggins doesn't try to outthink fear. He trains himself to go into it again and again on purpose. Not because he's fearless, but because he knows that the only way to get stronger is through what we call exposure therapy. You don't grow by avoiding fear, you grow by walking straight into it without hesitation. Fear might say, what if I fail? Goggins says, then get in the arena anyway. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because fear is like a bully. If you avoid it, it will own you. But if you smack it square in the face, it will crumble fast. Every step towards fear builds strength. Every action becomes a mental scar and a reminder that you didn't quit. And here's what most people never realize. It's never about trying to get rid of fear. It's about learning to use it. Fear is fuel if you train to think of it that way, if you move towards it. But if you wait too long, it will become your prison. So sitting there and doing nothing can never be an option. Fear is a mile wide, but only an inch deep. That's the one truth that no one tells you. Because in your head, fear looks huge, overwhelming, paralyzing to the point that you freeze just at the thought of it. But then all of a sudden, when you step towards it, you realize it wasn't that bad after all. The scenarios you imagine and play out on repeat in your head, they never even happen. The judgment you feared from other people, it never even comes. Most of the time, no one even notices what you've done. But the regret of not trying, let me tell you, that's very real. So stop making fear bigger than it is. It's a message. It's not there to stop you. It's there to signal you. And once you move, you collapse that illusion fast. So now just play this out in your head for a second. Imagine you finally did do that thing you've been putting off, starting the new brand, posting that video, launching your new offer, and it actually worked. Imagine if 6 months from now, you looked around and realized that your side hustle was your full-time job maybe. You were in control of your time. You woke up excited to get to work. You were building something that actually means something to you. And best of all, you didn't have to pretend to be anyone else to get there. You were just authentically you. Now, here's what I know from just experience. When you finally do get there, you'll look back and laugh at how small your fears really were. The judgment you were worried about, you won't even remember it. The doubts, the hesitation, they'll feel like a lifetime ago. Because once you taste what it's like to live in alignment, you'll never want to go back. This is a message I wish I just could have given to my younger self. But I can't rewind the clock. But what I can do is give it to one of you listening right now. Because remember, fear isn't a signal for you to stop. It's a sign that you're heading somewhere that's actually worth going to. And the future version of you, they're waiting on the other side of that decision. So make it. Section 4. If you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes a sacrifice. Alex Hormozi. Everyone wants to be exceptional. But most people are terrified of being the exception. They want standout results, but they're afraid to stand out. So what do? They play it safe, they build what's familiar, they post what fits the algorithm, they copy what other people are doing in the space just to keep low key. They don't sacrifice comfort. And in the process, they sacrifice their own vision and their own authenticity. Because here's the truth. If your life isn't aligned with your values, you're simply building just someone else's dream. And that's what most people are doing. They post what gets engagement. They price based on competitors. They speak in a way that sounds professional, but not authentic to them at all. But if your brand doesn't reflect who you are, it will eventually drain you, it will break you, and it will burn you out. Because no win will ever feel good if you lose yourself trying to get there. So let's wrap these quotes up and ground them in some science, because you all know I love a bit of neuroscience. Here's what actually happens in your brain when fear shows up. So your amygdala in the brain fires off. That's the part of your brain responsible for fear, threat detection and survival. Think of it as your built-in alarm system, but this is where it gets very interesting. So every time you feel but you act anyway, you activate your prefrontal cortex of the brain. That's the part of your brain responsible for strategic thinking, focus and intentional decision making. It's what helps you pause, reframe and move with clarity. So any of you hothead road ragers listening, you might need to work on that one. But this is what is called top-down processing. It means the higher order parts of your brain can override the emotional ones, only if you train them enough, that is. But there's one more player in this system that I want to talk about, and not many people do talk about it. It's called the mid-cingulate anterior cortex. This part of your brain lights up when you do hard things on purpose. It governs pain tolerance, effort, willpower, and pushing through discomfort. In short, the mid-cingulate cortex is your mental grit switch. Every time you resist quitting, every time you move towards fear, every time you do something that you just don't feel like doing, that part of your brain gets stronger. And the best part, you can train it like a muscle. So think about what this really means. Every single time you act in the face of fear, intentionally, you're not just building mental toughness, you're rewiring your brain to become the kind of person who does hard things almost by default. It becomes your autopilot setting. Yep. Fear isn't removed as such. It just doesn't magically disappear. It's retrained. And if you want a tool that trains all three of these systems, you know what I'm going to say by now. Start taking ice baths. The moment you sit in freezing water, your amygdala screams, your prefrontal cortex tries to regain control, and your mid-cingulate cortex fires to help you stay in it. It's not about cold exposure, it's about training your nervous system to stay calm under stress. My obsession started with them, and when I understood the neuroscience, it became an obsession. Not with cold, but with training my brain. And as it stands now, I can consistently hit 30 plus minute in 3-degree water, and I do it 3 times a week. And that's just for the discipline and the emotional regulation that it now gives me every single day. So what's my advice talking all things fear for the last 15 or 20 minutes? Well, everyone will give you weird and wonderful hacks to help you break through. Visualization, journaling, mirror work. And believe me, I've tried it all, but let me just save you some time now. The only thing that really does work is doing the thing you don't want to do. It's that simple. It's exposure therapy. It's movement over mindset. It's action over analysis. And the simplest tool I've personally ever found is the 10-second rule. Super simple, super effective. When the fear kicks in, just count down from 10 and then move. Don't negotiate. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just move. Send that message. Click post. Hit record. Book the call. Ask the girl out. Whatever that fear is. Because fear can only live in hesitation. And every single second you wait, you're feeding into it, making it worse. But when you shrink that gap between thought and action, fear all of a sudden loses all power. It doesn't get smaller though, you just get stronger. So let's wrap up today's episode and remind ourselves of the 3 quotes from today, as each one should shift the way that you see fear forever. Quote number 1, the only way to overcome fear is through voluntary suffering. So every time you choose discomfort, you activate the mid-cingulate cortex, your brain's grit switch. You don't build resilience by thinking, you build it through reps, through action. Voluntary suffering isn't pain, it's brain training. Well, that's how I like to call it. Fear is a mile wide, but only an inch deep. It looks huge in your head, but the second you act, you realise it was never that deep after all. If you don't sacrifice what you want will become the sacrifice. You can chase comfort or you can chase your calling, but you can't chase both, so pick wisely. And here's what it all comes down to. Everyone wants confidence, patience, resilience, but no one wants to actually earn them. That's the difference. You want to become calm under pressure? Then you need to be tested. You want to be resilient? Then get ready to face setbacks. You want to be patient? Then don't expect things immediately. Your higher self isn't hiding behind more knowledge. It's waiting on the other side of fears. Please remember that. So if you're done waiting, then write down that fear, count down from 10, and take the leap. And remember, if you rewire your mind, you redefine your future. So I'll see you guys next week for the next episode. But you know what to do right now. Just move, because you are built different.